and welcome to trick number 4 of the Clever Hound Novice Sparks team. Today we're going to do a behavior that's pretty simple that many of your dogs may already know, but in case they don't, we're going to practice it anyway because this is a good starting point for many of our other tricks. And that behavior is going to be to sit on cue. And ideally we'll want to get this onto a verbal cue pretty quickly. Again, for smaller dogs in particular, and really for any dog, if you're worried about keeping them still, a platform or an elevated dog bed can sometimes make it easier in the early stages of this. You are welcome to have your dog on leash for your novice tricks, as long as you're just using the leash to keep your dog in the area and not necessarily forcing him to stay put. Just if you have a dog that's a little bit younger or a little more distractible, you can have a leash on. And certainly if you're working outside and the area is not fenced, you'll probably want to have a leash on for your dog's safety. Hey, Chill, can you come up here? Hey. All right, so as we did with our other tricks, we'll start with a food lure with the goal of getting rid of the lure as quickly as we possibly can. So I'm gonna get Chili standing, and I'm just gonna use the cookie in my hand, hold it up, and when the butt hits the ground, I'm gonna click. Good girl, all done. And then you always want to release your sit with an okay or all done, break, whatever you're going to use as your word to let your dog know that he's allowed to move now, because otherwise they should really stay sitting if you've told them to until you've given them a clue otherwise. But it's only fair to remember to use your release word, and I like to teach that from the very beginning of teaching the sit. All right, so after you've done a few repetitions, and I would really only do a few with the treat in your hand, we're going to progress to just using an empty hand lure. Now, if you've done your hand touch homework from the other day, this really will probably be pretty natural that your dog at this point is pretty interested in your hands and probably will follow them readily. So Chill, stand. Stand. Good girl. So I'm just going to use my empty hand, and voila, butt hits the ground, cookie happens. And then for adding your cue to the sit, you're going to want to say the verbal and then do the hand signal and then reward when the sit happens. To wean off of the hand signal, as you'll probably want to do, you want to wait until your dog is starting to move on the verbal, and then you'll find sooner or later you don't even have to give the hand signal. Okay, all done. So the next stage would look like this. Sit, hand signal, butt on ground, click, treat. But then as your dog progresses, all done. Stand. You'll be able to do sit, just a verbal, and a click and a treat. All done, good girl. So play with your sits. Even if your dog already knows this, it doesn't hurt to practice because a lot of dogs will be really responsive to the hand signal, but not necessarily the verbal. So if your dog already has a pretty good sit with a treat in your hand, try to get a sit without a treat. And if they have a pretty good hand signal sit, maybe try to get it on the verbal. Tomorrow we'll be expanding on this trick, so go ahead and practice those sits today.